Well, David and Todd, you've got the Muppets doing fantastic at the box office right now. You're coming off some Oscar nominations last year from The Fighter. How do you go from The Fighter one year to the Muppets the next year?
Seamlessly.
In many ways, it's the same story.
Yeah.
Basically the underdog that has to fight the bad guy, whether it's your own family or an oil baron, and end up winning at the end. I mean, they're structurally they're similar stories,
but one has puppets and the other one doesn't.
Right.
But it was interesting going from we were shooting the Muppets obviously at the same time we were doing the campaign for The Fighter, so it was really wild and interesting going from shooting the Muppets during the day to going to Fighter events at night. And the only real constant in that whole thing was us and Amy Adams. But it was fun.
Yeah. But it is. It's, we love different stories, and it doesn't really matter what genre or where they come from. They're, if there's a fun story to tell or an interesting or compelling or dramatic or comedic story to tell, we sort of respond to that. And the opportunity to do a Muppet movie just historically for our careers and because we're such fans of it, it was a great opportunity for us.
And the end of The Fighter, obviously the story's dramatic and it has an uplifting and hopefully emotional kick at the end. And what we really wanted to do for the Muppets was ironically something similar. And I think when people go see the movie and come out, what they're most surprised about is that they're really tearing up at the end, that there's obviously a nostalgic factor to it, but there's a real emotional core to the movie and a real emotional story that's very tangible, and one that, might make you cry.
It's really incredible. Taking on the Muppets would have been a pretty risky venture. And when Jason and Nicholas wrote this script, how did they actually get you guys on board for this project?
Yeah, well, Jason came in and pitched the idea of doing a Muppet movie to the studio here at Disney, and they own the rights. And he and Nick kind of started fashioning a story and written a script, and then David and I thankfully have a wonderful relationship here at Disney. We've made many movies with them, and we were fortunate enough to have that relationship for them to kind of invite us along for part of the process, and that in conjunction with the fact that as David said before, we're massive fans of the Muppets and had been kind of subtly chasing it for a long time, knowing that they had it, and those two things kind of meshed together. So it was good timing, and we came in at the right time when there was a script that everyone seemed to like the story of, and we kind of got in and started working with Jason and Nick on it, and then brought James on too.
What was your biggest concern? I mean, a lot of people grew up with the Muppets. A lot of people haven't had them on the big screen in a long time. What was your biggest concern about relaunching the franchise here?
That we not screw it up.
It's pretty big.
We needed to, it was a tricky line to walk because you both want to be referential to what the Muppets are and were and what people's minds conjure up for the Muppets, and at the same time, we wanted to, do a fun contemporary version of them, and that line that we had to walk throughout the entire process was an interesting one, and certainly, we had sort of that contemporary feel going in with Nick Stoller and Jason, and it's one of the reasons we chose James Bobin to direct, because he had sort of an off-kilter kind of history with Ali G and Flight of the Conchords, and we thought that point of view would be a really interesting complement, aside from the fact he was also a Muppet fanatic.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's hard, obviously. There was, with this legendary brand that had gone back many, many years with the legendary creator, there's certainly a bit of pressure that we felt, and as David has said in the past, kind of a responsibility to make sure that we don't mess it up. But I think in making the movie and kind of going forward, we tried our best never to second guess our own creative instincts along with our studio partners and our director and writer and the creative filmmaking team. We just wanted to kind of make the very best movie we could possibly make, not trying to make something that would be good for the Muppet fans or otherwise. We really just wanted to make a great movie, and we're thankful that the end result is something that hopefully accomplishes both, and that nodding to the history of the Muppets and making sure that those fans are happy with what we did, as well as kind of introducing a new world of Muppet fans, hopefully, with just a story that stands alone on its own.
It's interesting because there's a lot of people who have come a long way and been a part of the Muppets for a long time, and they had their voices. And the same, interestingly, was true of the fighter, because all those people that we depicted are still alive and around today. And our job is to sort of push that all aside and make the best movie that we can, as Todd said. And because if we start listening to everyone who has an opinion, even though we were certainly open to hearing what people had to say, and that if that helped make a better movie, then we go with it. But you can't second guess what would Henson have done, or what would this person have said. I saw it. You saw it in the early days of Disney when Walt died. The same thing. Everybody was second guessing what would Walt do, and you just gotta go do your business.
Mm-hmm.
And in our case, make the best movie we could.
Yeah, and for this reboot, one of the most incredible things that I've noticed at pre-release is the way it's just completely taken over social media and the way it's been marketed, on Google Plus, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and it's been everywhere. Like, for instance, when we had a crisis with the Oscar host, it was like the whole world was clamoring for the Muppets to host the Oscars. So what is your take on the really incredible marketing job that has been accomplished for this film?
Well, I think that, the Muppets, by the nature of who they were and who they are, kind of allow you to do really anything, because they're known for breaking the fourth wall. They're known for being self-referential, making fun of themselves and parodying others. So there's really no rules in terms of what you can do to market these characters. So we all embrace that, and the studio here definitely embraced that. And when we initially started talking about the campaign, and they fashioned our very first trailer, which started off as kind of a send-up on what would be a typical romantic comedy with Amy Adams and Jason Segel, and then pulled the rug out from everyone and said, actually, no, it's a Muppet movie. That opened the door to say, all right, we're having fun with this campaign, so therefore you, an audience, you should also have fun along with us. And then, no holds barred from there.
Those guys did an amazing job in every way, both the print campaign, the television campaign. It was a thing to behold. They really stepped up.
And I was talking to Publicity about it too, because you think about, these characters between Kermit and Piggy and Fozzie and Gonzo and Squid. There's all kinds of different characters. You really can do anything and have them anywhere. And not to take anything away from movie stars, but if you had a movie with 4 movie stars in it, you probably wouldn't be able to get them to do half or more than half of the things that the Muppets will do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I saw quite a few of them on ESPN the last couple of weeks, and also I think my favorite thing they've done so far is Miss Piggy and Kermit the Frog were on Jimmy Fallon playing Password. I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah, now picture other movie stars doing that.
That's right. Sure. That's right. Well, Golden Globes are coming up, and they obviously have these comedy musical categories. How do you feel like you'll fare with the Hollywood Foreign Press?
We hope that they embrace it in a similar way to the way that all the other critics are embracing it. We're thrilled with what an unbelievable response and critical response we've gotten with this movie. I think we're at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, which is overwhelming.
Yeah, I think if they can look at it as a film, which we do, and not a family film, and look at the reviews that we've gotten, I can tell you we think we belong in that category and should be in the running for it, and we hope they see it the way we do.
Well, from the very beginning, it was interesting because we've never made a musical. We really embraced the musical aspect of it, and that's kind of what the Muppets were. And again, we collectively, along with the studio and James and Nick and Jason, really wanted to make a musical. And it was James who brought in Brett McKenzie from his Blood and Concords days. And it was an amazing experience kind of going through the whole song process and weeding out different songs from different writers and eventually settling in on what the songs we wanted for those particular spot. You could be in it, and it hopefully plays the comedy and it plays the musical. So, we're through. The audience is embracing it, the critics are embracing it, and hopefully the Hollywood Foreign Press will feel the same.
Plus, we're the only musical comedy out there.
Exactly. Yeah, look, I don't think critics groups and the Hollywood Foreign Press can ignore a film with reviews at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's astounding, and you guys should be extremely proud of that. But also, with the Oscars coming up, it looks like the Muppets are going to fare very well, especially for Brett McKenzie's songs. Tell us just about how the soundtrack to the movie came to life, because that's obviously now going to be one of the real highlights of the film going forward.
Like a lamb, with someone there to lend a hand. Life's a bunch of stars, with someone to while away the hours. Life's a fillet of fish. Hey, yes it is. Life's a happy song when you get someone by your side to sing along.
Yeah, it was a wild process because, we would have these, what we would call it, song listening sessions where David and I and James and Kristen Burr, who's our studio partner executive, and the head of Disney Music and his lieutenant would sit in a room together and listen to all these different songs that various songwriters had speculatively written and demoed to put in there. And we sat there for hours and hours on several occasions listening to these different songs. And for the most part, sorry, I'm going to just adjust this. For the most part, what we ended up settling in on was, anytime Brett McKenzie wrote a song for a particular spot, we all generally went towards that as the very best version. So he's got a lot of original songs in there. And we were thrilled with kind of how it all came out, but it was a crazy process and one which we'd never been through before, because obviously music elicits certain emotional feelings depending on, the lyrics and the tune, and there were so many vastly different takes on what the songs could have been that it could have gone in any number of directions.
Yeah, we must have heard, 6, 8, 10 versions of the same song, and then we would sort of whittle it down, and then we would come back and ask them to make changes, and the ones we whittled down. So it was just a process of then finding the one that we all kind of agreed on.
Well, if the music branch at the Academy will embrace those songs, we might see the Muppets on that Oscar stage after all.
That would be cool.
Hope so.